Late stars, sun up, phone buzz, turn it up. Got my coffee, got my day. Tuned in, locked in, Alex J. Let's do brunch with Alex J on Pulse Online Radioor today. Laughs, good vibes on replay. Let's do brunch with Alex J.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. This is Alex J, and welcome to Let's Do Brunch. In the studio this afternoon, I'm really happy to have two good friends of mine. One being the phenomenal Marcus Hunter Neill. You want to say hello, Marcus?
Bonjour, ça va? Hello, hello.
You may know him also as Portia Diamante, the ever glamorous, I want to say eclectic.
Yeah. Northern Ireland's first lady of drag and the most beautiful face never to be discovered. You know, it just rolls off the tongue.
You're like me, a good face for radio.
Yeah, indeed.
No. And our lovely Kat Reagan's back this week. It's lovely to have you back again.
Hello, thanks Jay, thanks for having me back.
You must have really enjoyed yourself last week.
I did! Back for more.
Well, there was actually some things we didn't get a chance to talk about last week, so we're going to do that this week, and it fits in nicely with what Marcus is going to chat about today. Marcus has given me a couple of songs to play, but before we do, Marcus, tell everybody about yourself. Anybody that doesn't know you, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I feel a wee bit stroked, to be honest, because it was Let's Do Brunch and there's no food here at all.
No,
I thought I was coming here to film my face.
I have a banana.
Definitely no food, but we're sure we'll give you a bottle of water. What do you want?
That's perfect. Yeah, so I'm been doing drag now for 26 years, and it was a very, very different time whenever I started. And one of my main reasons for starting drag is because I am severely dyslexic. So I struggle to read, write and spell. And drag wasn't a thing the way it is today. So much so that even when we went to the bar to pitch the night, because we had seen them all doing it in Dublin, that the bar guy was like, men dress as women, do you think that would be a thing? So it wasn't the way it is today. So we took over a Sunday night in the Parliament. He said, well, basically it's not like you can ruin anything, we don't have anybody in on a Sunday. So the Sunday we were downstairs, it got so busy that they had to move us upstairs, and it was as busy as their Saturdays and Fridays as well. And my first Friday night, then they started to get us to host and walk around. So my first job on a Friday night walking around hosting was asking people, could I get their email? Because if you have an email or a computer, we could send you information. And people got so excited because some people had an email but didn't have a computer. So if they got an email, it was really exciting things.
You used to have to go to the library to check your emails.
I know, and our shows were on cassette tape, and karaoke was on videotape.
Oh, I remember the karaoke on the videotape. My dad actually years ago was one of the first people to bring karaoke over to this country. Because then it was only really Japan and Korea and places like that that had karaoke. And my dad, he brought karaoke over, and Saturday afternoons, no matter where you were, but it was on videotape. Yeah. And it was just, then he sort of linked it all into a sound system so that people could get up and sing on a Saturday afternoon, stand on tops of tables and stuff. So it was actually good crack. Do you remember videotape, Kat? Because you're very young.
I do remember videotapes, but I'm thinking, like, so if they were doing karaoke, but did you have to like fast forward
and rewind?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that is so funny. That is so funny.
Do you remember when they had that system, you would have had a karaoke book, and that's how many songs they had. So there was a wee code for the song, and the code was actually the time that you had to fast forward or rewind the video cassette to.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
It was crazy. Yeah. We'll come back to that in a wee second. We're going to play you Maria by Blondie now. There you go, Maria and Blondie. All right, so we're in the studio, if you've just joined us, with Marcus Hunter Neill, a.k.a. Lady Portia Diamante, and the lovely Kat Reagan. Now, today, we're going to chat about diversity, equity and inclusion. And Marcus, very interesting person to talk to, because Marcus, when you see you in all your Lady Portia get up and everything, I just wonder how you get from performing on the cabaret stage to performing in, not on stages, but you know, you're was it the NYPD, New York Police Department, in New York and Paris, and
I won an award for it. So basically, everything that I've done has just been like a natural progression. So because I was struggled to read, write and spell, I did drag because
you're dyslexic. Yes.
Because I couldn't, I didn't have to read on a stage. And then that led into like activism work and then seeing all the colours of the rainbow. And I was very lucky because I came from a lovely, loving, supportive, great background and really supportive family. But then working on the scene 26 years ago, it was a completely different thing. I can remember a mum coming in, nearly kicking the doors of the Parliament in because she thought her son might be gay and might be in there, and it was after hours, and you know she was kicking off, and people were put out of their houses, and
this was other gay people.
Yeah,
you were
this was
about.
it was a completely different time. So that has just always been in me. And then I started to work in cosmetics because I kind of thought, well, I'll get myself some free makeup. So I was naturally, then I started in leadership there, and people could never understand how our team, this wee team in Benefit, had the highest number per head, second to Oxford Street in London. So not monetary lift, but each girl's productivity. And then it wasn't until years later, and then doing a lot more work on this, then I discovered that's what it actually was I was seeing them, I was giving them all the time of the day and working with them and meeting them where they were at, which was one of the most important things. So they flourished, and everybody wanted to work on our team because I had gone from a manager who was really terrible to work under, and I just thought, well, now that I'm in a position of influence, I'll tweak that. So that's what I've always done. Anytime that I've got into a position where I can grab people up and make a wee bit of change, I always do. So that's how that just all naturally progressed. And then for the last maybe 10-15 years, I have been working a lot in the DEI world and going out to organisations and helping them. So
for anybody that's listening and doesn't
Yes.
know what DEI is, and I said, it's diversity, equity and inclusion.
Yes.
But can you tell us how then and why it matters and what it is about?
Yes. So basically, about 20 years ago, they were like, we need everything to be represented, and we almost need to box ticks, especially in Northern Ireland. So a lot of people were getting hired to just box tick. Well, we need this
because of their religion or the
Yes.
colour of their skin, mostly.
And, yeah. So lots of organisations, then there was a discourse, and people were getting jobs that other people felt a little bit disgruntled that their mate didn't get it or somebody didn't get it. So a lot of my early work was around belonging, like how do we make these teams work and gel? So it's not this person's fault that they got the job, they applied for it, they got it. So where do we bridge that? So over time then I realised it was as important to have belonging in the workplace. So the other thing was, I then realised in the work that I was doing, I was the only one of me. I was literally the only one that I saw that looked like me in a lot of my early media work and everything. I was the only person that was like me and as comfortable in my own skin. So then I realised representation is as important, because if you start a job or start a career and everybody at the top doesn't look like you, or you don't see yourself anywhere within that organisation or a system or a school, then you're not really going to think that's achievable for me. So I did this full rebrand for the American market called Our Debbie. So it's like Debbie works in HR, you do not mess with her, because she is going to make sure that everybody is supported. So R is representation, D is for diversity, E equity, B belonging, and I inclusion. And it was interesting because I was over in doing this in the US, because basically the administration over there has made it quite illegal to do anything DEI. And one guy...
The administration have made it illegal.
Mm-hmm. They're sacking. One of his first things that he went in to do, sacked all DEI hires and took DEI off their government websites and anything like that.
And this is obviously as well what's been in the news recently about the whole ICE, the immigration thing. Because I was watching on the news earlier on this morning about a guy from the south of Ireland, and he's actually he's been in prison because he's been taken. I think he married an American woman, but they literally lifted him off the streets. So they have.
There's a lady in custody at the moment, and she is from here, and she was married to a guy over there for 40 years. She's lived there longer than she's lived here. She'd won check that bounced in like 1994, and they lifted her off the street, heard her voice, heard it wasn't local, took her off the street, realised that she had a bad check from 1994, and she has been in 3 months in prison, and she's an American citizen.
And that is just crazy, isn't it, Kat? It's just crazy.
It makes me think of, that poem that was written about what happened in like the Second World War in Nazi Germany. That one, like they came for the Jews, but I was not a Jew. This is what this is making me think about. It's really scary.
I think it's a subject that a lot of people have opinions on, and a lot of people have feelings about. Some people won't voice their feelings because the way that it would make them look or appear. I do think that on the lines of, if there are people in your country that are there illegally, because we're all suffering at the minute with an issue that's unfortunate for the people in the country that they're coming from, but it is having an adverse effect on the country that they're going to. And I think this is why it's really, really prevalent at the minute, and it's really important that we get this right. And so the programme that you're doing is going some way to help that. I'm going to play a tune at the minute. We're going to come straight back to this, okay? So this is Katy Perry and Roar. Hello, and that was Katy Perry and Roar. Very prevalent to what we're talking about at the moment. Joined in the studio this afternoon, I have Marcus Hunter Neill, aka Lady Portia Diamante, and the lovely Kat Reagan. Now, we're talking about Marcus is involved in, which is Our Debbie, which is to do with the DEI. Marcus is going to continue explaining what the work that he's been doing and the programme that he's put together for this.
So, just before the chat, we were talking about the American market, and then there was a lot of people who didn't necessarily understand what DEI actually was, and when they were voting a certain way, and then that administration came in and then sacked all these people across the board. So you had all these women who got put out of work because they were technically, on paper, in their work's opinion, a DEI hire, but the women were going, oh no, we didn't mean us, we meant them. So there's a lot of people have this, the them and us. So what I try to do is, how do you create something that isn't a them and us, and it's an everybody? So this is how Our Debbie came about. So Debbie works in HR, and she looks after everyone, and a good DEI policy will affect everybody at multiple times in their career. So a prime example, just in very quick, is a lot of, say you take a straight white male who gets married, and then he gets a little bit of extra extension for his honeymoon because it's all great. That's all there, and that's, catered for him. He then maybe has children. His wife could have had complications, and he needs extra paternity leave. So in the realm of the DEI policies, somebody can take extra time off to be with a partner. There may be childcare issues in the future. There's a DEI policy in that allows this man to take time off to look after a child. He may get up a little bit in years, and then all of a sudden his parents, one might get dementia or one might fall sick. Well, because there's a DEI policy for this straight white man, he can take a bit of time or a bit of leave to look after parents or go out for hospital appointments. A parent might pass and he suffers a bit of mental decline. There's a DEI policy to say, it's okay, we've got you, take a bit of time off, your job's here when you come back.
But without the DEI, that's not in place for everybody.
That's not in place for everybody. And then he gets to 65 and goes, well, I'm still loving my job and I'm still contributing. So there's a policy in place to hire, to keep people in work over 65 here. So that's one straight white male. That same policy works for every single person in that entire organisation. So it's a blanket for everyone. The most important, again, is the representation. And diversity isn't just the colour of people's skin.
Or their religion.
No, it is where they're from culturally. It is economically where they're from. It's cognitively. So that means, if all the people in a boardroom think differently, they're all bringing different things to the table. If everybody in a boardroom or a workplace are all thinking the same way, you're never going to get that great idea.
Progress, yeah. And the thing about it as well is what in recent times that I've really had to think about, especially doing this show, is, and because obviously it's something really important to me and something that I'm experiencing at the minute, which is menopause. I feel in the workplace that in any situation, but in the workplace, I feel for women who are perimenopausal or who have the menopause, simply because there's not enough understanding about it and there's not enough knowledge about it. And I feel that it would be a really good thing to bring this or create some kind of a toolkit to take out into workplaces, not just workplaces, but organisations, social organisations even as well, so that people can understand the women around them, the women that are going through the menopause and all the different symptoms. Because I think even us as women don't really realise the full implications of what menopause brings. So Marcus, you do a programme to do with menopause.
Yes.
Can you tell me, because I know a lot of women out there will want to know, how does a man know, or how is he able to help a woman with the menopause stuff?
So my background for menopause is that I have family, I have friends, I have mums, I have had women in my life all of my life, and I saw.
So you've experienced and witnessed.
I have saw struggles that they went through, and I was to myself, there's no resources for any of this, and I don't do anything that's medical. Everything that I do is cognitive, so it's all around the brain fog, because I spent so much time researching the brain and how it works and the psychology of all of that, and that's how I made that program about getting everybody belonging in the workplace. So I just tweaked the lens a little bit to go, right, well, what is it that women are struggling most when the word brain fog comes up? What is brain fog? So with the research that I did on that, it's your executive function. So your executive function isn't you sitting in a boardroom, buying oil and selling gold. It's actually things like you get up off the sofa and you had a cup of tea and your lunch, and you go to the kitchen and you lift your plate, but you leave your cup, because you didn't notice the cup, or you forgot about the cup. It
kind of feels, from my experience, it kind of feels like nothing connects sometimes.
Yes.
So, also, and a lot of women out there will understand this. I mean, there's numerous occasions I literally have had something in my hand and not really moved from the position that I've been in. And all of a sudden, this thing that I had in my hand that I now need again has disappeared. And I have no clue as to where it is and can't see it. Many times I've went looking for keys and even a bank card, and they've been in the fridge or in a cupboard where the cups are kept. Where someone like me, especially because I am quite not regimented, but I like organisation. So for me, that really threw me for six. And I know this is a topic for you, Kat, that you're kind of really apprehensive about, because you're coming up to that age where you'll maybe start to experience symptoms and you're quite frightened about it.
I am frightened, yes.
And I said to you last week, it's nothing to be frightened about, because it's not the same for everyone. And that's the thing that we need to have the information, that it's not the same for everyone. So how to deal with that?
So interestingly, if you think of the brain itself like a spider's web, there's all these little connections and everything links up. So when there's that age-old saying of when someone is pregnant and it's like, oh, I've got baby brain and I can't think because I've got baby brain. What is actually happening there is your brain, your main focus is this child that is inside of you, and it is going, everything else outside of that you don't have to worry about. Your main focus is just this baby. But before you were pregnant, you were able to, juggle and run down the street and be on a phone call and do whatever. And then all of a sudden you get this thing called baby brain, and that's because your brain is going, this is your main focus. Then you have the baby and all these new things happen. So all those wee neurons, all those wee spider webs all start to reconnect again, because you're actively using your brain in a different way and new things are being thrown at you. What happens whenever you go into menopause is you don't have those neurons reactivated. So you're going into menopause and your brain almost goes into tunnel vision. This is what is happening right now, and all your wee spider webs turns into one string. and it's just to get you through menopause. But because once you come out or you're in it, you've nothing else to reactivate those doors or reopen those hallway doors. So what I say to women is, it's not that you're broken. All we're literally doing are finding those paths. So it's got, where was the map before? And it's simple things that you can do every single day. You know, the way that people say about like brain training and things like that. It's three different things that you do every single day, but you write it down. And it's things like noticing. The key thing when your brain goes into tunnel vision is, how do you widen the lens? And that is when you're driving to work, how many lights do you stop at? Because you just get into the, but then that's your brain.
Because you go on automatic pilot most
and
of the
your
time.
brain is going, right, I need to actively think and look out for lights. Or it could be, you know, how many shop fronts are for sale on your way to work. Or
it's actually quite when you really think about it, and it's actually quite scary to think that I've actually been in this position as well. It's just dawned on me. You know how sometimes you get into the car, and we've all done it because of what we do, we all in the entertainment business as well, late nights, and you get into the car and you feel like the car drives itself home. I have experienced journeys, daytime, nighttime, morning time, it doesn't matter the time of day, where I can't remember the journey of getting from A to B. And I find that going through the menopause, because I'm perimenopausal, going through the menopause, that has become more and more a prominent thing, where when I'm driving, you know, I really have to try, where obviously your technique helps with that, where I need to really try and concentrate on what I'm doing. So it's knowing the journey, but the thing about it is you may know the route and the car may feel like it's driving itself, but it's very dangerous to be behind the wheel of a car when you're not really able to focus or take everything in, you know, and that's the scary part of it as well. And I think, you know, there's not enough thought goes into that. You know,
our brains are designed, our brain's main focus is to keep us 100% safe. If it could keep us in a dark room with soft music, that would be job done. So when you're in a position like that, your subconscious kicks in. That's why you can drive from A to B without even thinking about it. But what you're thinking about is, consciously you're going, I can't remember this journey. You've probably done that journey 1,000 times and never thought about
but then how aware are you of the dangers and the things that could happen? You know, if I can't remember the journey, the scary thing for me is then, well, what could have happened? You know, because if I can't remember the journey, how was I aware when I was driving down the road? This
is where then things like this comes in. It helps you, because before you went into menopause, you'd have done that journey 1,000 times and never thought about it. It's only because you're
self-conscious about it.
So the thing about seeing where you're at and where you're going and how you're getting into the car and how you're driving, that's something that you did naturally anyway, and you didn't really need to give it a second thought, which is why, like, you could be driving to your caravan and chatting away, and you would get there and go, I don't even remember driving it. But it was because, you know, another mechanism kicked in, your safety mechanism kicked in. And whenever you start to become conscious of your surrounding, it activates all of those wee neurons. But one of the other things that women are, and it happens to a lot of people, but this is big in this program, but it's a technique that I use on everybody, because I have a private coaching practice that I work with everybody, male and female and all ages. But one of the big things is task overwhelm. Is you look at a task and you go, oh, I can't, you know, you look at the big picture and you go, this is going to take too long. I just do not have the time for it. But what we do within this program is we make everything bite-sized. So I have this great playlist that's all really fun songs, or a podcast. So what you do is you say to the brain, instead of looking at the entire task of what it is, and you go, so it could be a laundry room filled with ironing or washing, and you go, right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron for 3 tracks on the radio, or on your Walkman or whatever. Walkman, what am I like? On your
You're really sure.
I know.
Your ghetto blaster.
So then
Gramophone.
then what happens is your brain's an out. So it goes, right, okay, I can cope with three songs because that's roughly about 10 minutes. But then you get into task mode. So then your brain's in it. It's the starting that is the most difficult.
And do you know what? Actually, you saying that, it makes so much sense, because years ago, when I started, now a lot of people out there, if you're listening, you'll have heard me talking last week. In this last year, I've lost 6 stone. But years ago, where I threw myself into exercise, what I used to do is I got one of those cross trainers.
Yeah.
And what I did was I used to put the soaps on and could do, like, for the whole episode of the soap, I would do the cross trainer, and then when the break before the next soap came on, I went off, made myself a drink or a cup of tea or whatever, had a little break, and then when the next soap started, went on the cross trainer again and didn't get off until the end of the soap. So that actually really does work. It does work.
It's all about wee tricks.
It's kind of like distraction.
Yes.
Distraction from what you're doing, just so that you can.
Yeah.
So you can focus. That's really, really strange even to say that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when you do wee small and because, I never wanted this to be something that women would go, oh, this is something else I have to do, and then they put it off. It's 3 very small things that you just have to notice throughout the day, and notice when you've completed a task. So for example, you've washed the dishes, but there's still 1 cup left. And instead of you going, I didn't even see the cup, you actively go at the end and you do a scan. So one of the things is scan to see, is everything done? And then you actively do the scan. You go, oh my God, I didn't even see that wee cup. Right, I'll do that. So they're just examples, but it could be anything. It could be folding up socks and there's 1 sock on the bed that you've left.
So talking about the menopause, I was today years old when I discovered this song was actually about the menopause. And tell me what you think. This is Robert Palmer, Addicted to Love. Yes, so I was today years old when I realised this song, the lights are on but no one's home, definitely is how I feel sometimes going through the menopause. While we're here, can we just give you the WhatsApp number? You can WhatsApp us, send a voice note if you want to, and I'll play it live on air. It's 077 561 614 56. That's 077 561 614 56, and that's how you can join in the conversation. Let us know about your experiences. If you have experienced the menopause, or someone around you, or you have a question about the menopause or any of the subjects we're discussing today, just while we're here, I have a lovely friend who happens to be in Malta at the moment. 2 friends, John and Paulette. And I know Paulette will definitely relate to a lot of things we're talking about. They're listening live from Malta, so thanks so much for joining us. Also, I want to say hello to Sarah, who's joined us this week again. Sarah, it's lovely to have you here. And also Karen, where you are. And I know that Ali's listening too. Ali had a queer laugh about the whole Walkman thing there. So he can relate to that, I'm sure.
Not even a CD player Walkman.
Not a disc man.
Not even a CD player Walkman. So it's great to be here. If you've just joined us, I'm in the studio today with Marcus Hunter Neill and the lovely Kat Reagan. And we're just discussing about the menopause. And in the break there, when the music was playing, we were talking about Asian women.
Yes.
So you wanted to tell us about why an Asian woman going through menopause is nearly just like she has a wee cough and that's it.
And so there's a few different reasons for that. But if anybody is out there and they're listening and they've any questions, please, because there's no such thing, in my opinion, as a silly question. It's only silly if you don't ask, because if I don't know the answer, I'll say it with confidence and make it up anyway. You know what I mean? So
we'll try not to do that.
No.
And also, Kat's really good on the Google.
Yes.
Yes.
So the reason why, so please feel free to message in if you want. The reason why in certain cultures is around the diet. So we've got Kat here, and we were just coming up with the wee analogy that Kat has bought a ticket for the menopause bus.
Did I buy this ticket?
Well, it was gifted to you. It was gifted to you.
I didn't buy this ticket.
I know. A VIP ticket. You've got a VIP ticket to the
Yay.
bus.
It's a gift card.
Thanks so much.
Jay's on the bus and I'm planning the route. So that's where all of our different experiences are all coming in. And I was saying in the break that, there's things that you can do to help offset a lot of the symptoms, and a lot of that is around diet and supplements and different things that you can take. And there are certain cultures where menopause doesn't affect them in the same way, and a lot of that is to do with the inflammation within the body. We eat lots of food that has lots of processed stuff in it, which isn't great for.
I really, in recent years, because I've been diagnosed with severe arthritis, but I also, for over 20 years now, I was diagnosed 27 years ago with fibromyalgia, which has become really well known now. A lot of people have been diagnosed with it, but 27 years ago, no one knew what it was, and my doctor was actually getting emails from doctors in America, to try and help me with medications and different things. And I came across this study in a medical magazine that my doctor had photocopied for me. It was to do with anti-inflammatory diets, and a lot of it was like common sense, really common sense.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is very, very similar to then the same kind of diet that you would follow for menopause. With the, make sure you're taking food in with loads of omega-3s and oily fishes and stuff like that. And then as well, there's a lot of foods that I didn't realize actually can cause or excel the inflammation, and there are a lot of foods that actually help to calm down inflammation. So I no longer use things like proper chilies. So if I'm making a spicy food, I'll use cayenne pepper or paprika as opposed to actual chili, because chilies do, like jalapenos, because they're proper chilies, they actually do exacerbate your inflammation, which I had no clue about before. And a lot of things like the turmeric and the ginger and all that really, really help with things like bloating and inflammation too. And there's a lady, have you heard about Dr. Barbara O'Neill? Have you heard about her?
No.
She is, I want to say she's Australian. She may be from New Zealand. If somebody out there knows, could let me know. But she is a great herbalist for natural remedies for things, and reading into a lot. I'm not saying that's what you have to follow. I'm not saying that's what you should be doing, because none of us really do. We live in an age of really high processed foods. Everything now is really highly processed. Even when you're buying things like, you go to Iceland or you go to Tesco's and you buy a frozen meal that looks like normal food, it's very highly processed. And only when you read the ingredients and break it down do you realize how much of a process it's gone through. And even things like, people go, oh, it's only ham, but ham is really, like sandwich ham is really highly processed foods. I would never have known
so
that.
high in salt as well, which is water retention as well.
And I never would have known those things, only for things about the menopause being flagged up.
And then you were saying, Kat, that you were reading the study on the Chinese diet.
Yes, so there's a book called The China Study, and now me and my mummy were reading this years ago, because my mummy was diagnosed with cancer, and so we were reading this for those purposes. And yes, a lot of the information in that is about how the more Asian diet leads to less cases of cancer, and the study of how when they transferred over Western diets to a more Asian based diet, that the cancer recovery was faster, and they were just getting better results. It was supporting the cancer treatment better by changing the diet. And so my mummy was a big believer in this, and we really went full ham on the China study. But yes, it's talking a lot about cutting out processed things and having less red meat and more oily fish and things like that. I need to get back into it again, actually, because it's been a long time since I read it, and I feel like I made changes and then it's all slipped.
And
I need to get back into it again.
What's ahead of you? So we're talking about, you've got the gift certificate for the menopause.
Can't wait.
So what's ahead of you that might be actually really useful to help you prepare and get yourself and your body ready for what's going to be going on.
Yeah.
And I will just say this for anybody listening, because I don't want to put the fear of the menopause in people, because there are people who go through life and go through the menopause and don't even realize they went through the menopause. It's only for a minority of people that really, really do suffer. Some people just have mild symptoms, you know, like maybe a hot flush or, you know, maybe a sleepless night or whatever,
Yeah.
the odd sleepless night. But so it's not the same for everyone either.
I have a great wee top tip for hot flushes as well. So for years I ran a cosmetics cancer charity, and part of the side effects of the treatment, a lot of the women got symptoms of menopause. So one of the
And that's because it's to do with the hormones.
yeah, and the hot flushes, whenever they're coming, it's almost like from your core right up, so you can feel it coming on. And if you get like a fruit-based toner, and half fruit-based toner, so like Garnier or something,
A toner for your skin.
a toner for your skin, and you put some of that with water, half and half, and as soon as you feel that wee flush coming on, what to do is spray a light mist on your face and neck, and if you've got like a lower V top on, and on your chest, and then what happens is the air naturally cools it down, and then because if the heat is going straight to another heat source, then it stays hotter for longer. This wee mist spray, as soon as you feel that in your tummy, you do that wee mist spray, and what it does is it doesn't stop it, but it shortens the length of
So it's
heat.
nearly like pouring water on the fire,
Yes.
sort of dampens it down.
And the same thing when you're in bed, because you know the flushes can get really, really hot in bed. Get like one of those spray bottles that you would do for your plants.
Yes.
If you've one of those and you just spray it over yourself really, really quickly, it will help to cool you down as well.
So it'd be worthwhile making a wee solution of cucumber water or something up.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and that's really, really good advice, actually. Really good advice. Would that help me on stage too? Because I get really hot on stage.
Yeah,
That's
and
really good.
it's because then the air, so there'll be fans, and
Yeah.
the air will naturally cool your skin and bring it down.
Yeah.
And then because it's a wee light toner, it's not going to take all of your makeup and everything off.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Clever and a very
Yes.
easy thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so simple and straightforward.
So simple.
It's the small things, I think, unless
Yeah.
we're really sharing them with each other. That's why it's important for me
Yep.
to do something like this on the show.
And if anybody out there has wee top tips, because this is what we're talking about, and they've gone through it, and they had like a wee something that helped them, then they can share that. And you know, sharing's caring. you
So
know.
Yes, I'd love to hear top tips.
You can, if you want to, you can WhatsApp the show. It's 077 561 61456. So it's 077 561 61456. And you can WhatsApp your top tips, or even just what your experiences are, and if Marcus can help you with some ideas of how to combat whatever it is you're going through at the moment. I'm sure he'd be more than happy to help. We'll go to a wee tune for now. This is Celine Dion, It's All Coming Back to Me. And there you go, what a fab tune, It's All Coming Back to Me. So if you were in your car or you're doing your housework and you were singing along, well done. I love that tune.
Oh
It's
my,
All
so
Coming
do I.
Back
It's
to Me
so
now.
great.
We're just having a wee chat off mic there about dieting and about diets and healthy eating, because we went and we were chatting about it just before we went to the song about the Asian diet, and Kat said that she had a book that all talked about healthy eating and how the Asians eat and how beneficial it is.
The China study.
The China study. Sorry, I was referring to it as an Asian book, but the China study. And it is amazing. It's very, very rarely you see someone from China that is really much bigger than they should be, or very, very unhealthy. And also their age that they seem to live to in those countries is far beyond what we have here, and probably is because they don't have things like in a lot of the places they don't go to supermarkets and stuff like that, and they buy fresh ingredients to cook from scratch. And not everybody has time to do that, I know.
And they're very big into their herbal medicines. So in the likes of China and Hong Kong, all the supermarkets will sell really like you would be very hard pressed to go into a supermarket over there and find something that's processed, because that's just culturally they don't eat like that. The Mediterranean diet is a brilliant one as well. Again, it's the oils and fresh food and fresh vegetables
And fish.
So I actually have a question for you here from John, who's in Malta, and it's a really good question, because this is one of the things that I really feel we need to do is to actually give information and knowledge to the husbands and the boyfriends and the work colleagues and the bosses in companies about menopause. And John's asked this question, Marcus, directly to you. He said, it's just curious, everything on the conversations I know tends to cover perimenopause and menopause and helping women deal with it. But does Marcus have any suggestions or guidance on how husbands, partners can help their wives with menopause and things that we can do to make things potentially better for them? And he said, underneath even, I'm sure the best thing to do is actually just probably keep our mouths shut.
Who sent that lovely message? What?
That's John, Paulette's husband, John.
Of course it's John. Very good. John, I love it. I love it. This intention's beautiful.
Yes. And it would be, I love the joke about, keep your mouth shut, and just say yes, dear.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, the best way to get around all of this is actual communication. So you can say to your partner, I see that, you're either a wee bit off, or you're here, or this is happening. What is it that you need? How can I support you? Is there something that I can do? And on a sidebar, do a bit of research, know what age your partner is, and if they're going and they're getting like a hormone treatment, or they're talking about this, or they're starting a new diet because they're trying to get rid of inflammation, research a wee bit about that. What is a good thing that maybe you could do together? Could you get on board with it? And then when you talk about it, instead of it being you're broken because you can't do the things you did before, it's going, right, at this stage of your menopause. Imagine if your husband or partner came in and goes, right, kid, do you know what it is? I've been looking this up. At this stage, you need this, and this, and I'm here for it. We'll do it together. And is there anything else you need? I got you these supplements. So imagine if that was the case. But also, and interestingly, there is a male menopause that happens, but it happens so gradually, and a lot of that needs to be around communication as well, because testosterone drops, and then men don't feel like.
And what age is that, Marcus? Because it is a jokey kind of a thing, I say, with the menopause, but it is a genuine thing. Males can, and how they go through what's called the midlife crisis, where they go out and buy a Ferrari or whatever it is, if you can afford a Ferrari, or you can't, and you get a loan to buy one. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. So what happens is, around 25, men hit their peak testosterone levels, and very, very, from 25 to 30, it very gently decreases, but marginally, and men will still be able to have children right up until their 90s. It's not like with women, where all of a sudden you're fertile, all of a sudden you're not fertile, and nature turns your tap on and turns it off. For men, it's just a very gradual thing that happens. When they notice it is in and around that middle age. So maybe they're not performing the way that they did. Maybe they don't feel as amorous maybe as they did in the past, or they're not performing in the way they did in the past, and then they go internally and go, this is something to do with me, so how can I offset that? They don't communicate with their partners, then their partners feel that they're pulling back,
because it's not really talked about.
No,
this is not talked about either.
And again, there are lots of supplements that you can take. There's diet things that you can do to offset your drop in testosterone and things like that. There's exercises that you can do. So if you are a man and a woman, and you're living together, and you've been together for 30 years, you are both hitting certain things, and if you research each other's certain things that are going to be happening throughout your lives together, then you're in it together. So maybe you can't perform the way that you did 20 years ago. 1 in 10 of times that you can't perform is medical. 9 out of 10 times is mental.
It's mental,
yeah,
definitely. And one of the things that I find, and you'll know this, Kat, without even going through being in menopause or anything like that, as a woman, sometimes we feel patronised because men kind of do that knowing look and go, oh, it's hormones, but it, like you said, it does happen for men and women. So that's the thing about it, I want to say a shout out to Amber. Thank you so much for your message. She says, hello all, loving the show. So she did. And also the next song we're going to play is for Chris Barber 34 in Lisburn there. He was very annoyed last week that I didn't give him a shout out. All his friends were in the studio, and we never gave him a shout out. So we're going to play this song. This is Freedom by George Michael, and this is for Chris Barber 34 there in Lisburn.
Hey, Chris.
Was Freedom, George Michael, and that was for the lovely Chris in Barber 34, because we never gave him a shout last week. So there you go, Chris. We hope you enjoyed that.
I hope he did nice blends while he was dancing around the barbers.
Nice skin fades.
Yes.
Fading.
John, I hope that was helpful to you, that information that Marcus gave you. And whilst we can all joke and say the best thing is just to keep quiet, sometimes yes, but a lot of the time no, and the key is to talk about it. I want to go a wee bit more lighthearted now, Marcus, because you have some great stories.
Yes.
Very funny stories.
Yes.
And for anyone that doesn't know you, I would love them to hear some of your stories because honestly, anytime you're talking to me and you tell me any stories, we're having a good belly laugh.
Yeah.
Just want to draw attention to last night, the message
yes.
that I got from you.
So I had a ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you sent me a video and it gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yes.
So it did.
So basically, I live in a townhouse, and I was on the top floor, and I have a hanging plant in the middle floor, and it's got a water bulb, so it's like a big bulb at one end and a spike at the other, and water just slowly drips out of it. So it's in the middle of the house. There's no through breeze. It's stuck really far into the plant, so it goes to the roots, so it's not wobbling about. There was no one around, and I came down the stairs, and it wasn't in the pot, but it was quite far down on another landing. There was no soil trail, so if it had fallen out, it would have banged and made a noise. It's glass, more than likely it would have broken, and there would have been like soil splatter everywhere. It was almost like it was just teleported. It moved from one place to the other without one crumb of dirt, and there was somebody working in the room right beside it with the door open, right beside the plant, and he would have heard something. So whenever I came down, I was like, did you move something, or did this drop, or did you? And I thought that he had done something, and then he goes, check the cameras. So I went back to the cameras, and literally it is, when I say teleport, it's on.
I saw it.
I can see it, and then it disappears, and then it obviously you don't see where it reappears because it's on a different part of the house. But it literally just
disappears.
It just disappears.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my dressing room, because on one of the staircases it shows two floors, my dressing room light goes on, and then the wee thing disappears. So it's almost like it went from dressing room down. Now I'm not scared.
So
or
when I
frightened.
saw the light coming on the camera, that wasn't someone in the room. The
No.
light went on by
No.
itself and off again by
Yeah.
itself.
So
And
I
thought you'd
turned it
went-
off.
I thought someone had went up. Oh, you turned it
I
off.
turned it off because I came out of I came out of the room on a call, and I was going, I must have left that, and I was in my head. I was going, when was I last in there? That's been on all day, but it hadn't. But
Yeah,
I
because
just
you can see in the camera
Yeah.
the light comes on, but there's no
Yeah,
one
yeah.
there.
There's no one there.
And then you can see you obviously going in to
Yeah.
turn it off.
turn it off. So yeah, spooky.
So I was saying, like, if you didn't turn up today, I would call Ghostbusters for you.
But so interestingly, in my house, I've had some activity there. Now I've had to have my family home that I grew up in exorcised. But it was a very dark entity there, and it was it was a very negative experience that went on for about 20 years, and that's why we had to get. That's why we had to get somebody out. In the house I live in, there's nothing, nothing that makes me nervous or anxious or anything like that. But when I lived there, I'm very close to Lewis Square. So we're in East Belfast, and they've got all the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe stuff. So there's always wee concerts and things, and there's events. And I'd be in my kitchen, and I would go, oh, I can't believe I've missed another concert, because I could hear music in the distance. So I always put it down to there must be something happening in the square. But lockdown came, and I was in my kitchen, and I was making wee soups for people, and I could hear the music again that I could always hear. And I was going, there's definitely not a concert. And then I opened the window, and there was no sound, and then I went into the hallway, and there was no sound, and the music that was in the distance. So if you're far away from a concert, you can hear that there's something happening, but you couldn't necessarily tell you what the track is, but you know that there's music playing. So I was going, where is this music coming from? And I was in and I lived on my own, and I'm at the radio, I'm at my phone, and every time I stepped out of the kitchen, it wasn't there. And basically, I was picking up the frequency of a completely different, like, timeline. And at one point, I was in my kitchen waiting for the soup to cool, that I could put the lid on, and I was leaning against the counter reading a wee article, and then I stood up and went to walk over, and it was like the two of yous were talking, and I walked through your conversation, and I could hear both sides, and they stopped and I stopped, but there was nothing there. I just knew that I had walked through a conversation. They clocked me and I clocked them, and then I got a bit spooked there, and then I spoke to one of my like psychic friends. He sent over his person, his other realm person who arrived at my house, went up and passed everybody over. And interestingly, I always thought in the corner of my bedroom there was a wee drunk man, and I don't know why, I just got the feeling that he was a wee drunk man, but no, like literally no harm in him. And he told me that there was a wee drunk man's in the corner, and anytime I have a drink, he loves it because he gets the fumes. But there was nothing in my house, or nobody in my house that was negative or a bad entity versus my mum and dad's house.
You ever had experience of that, Kat?
Yes. In the house that I lived in a couple of years ago, was up on Newtonards Road, so the old semi-detached houses. So it was 20s built, so you're talking like 100 years. And the first time I visited the house, I noticed like just a feeling. I had a feeling, but I was just like, whatever. But then whenever I moved into the house, I felt it more and more. And then whenever other people would come to visit, my sister commented on it, and I asked her, "Where do you think it is?" And she said, "Oh, it's at the top of the stairs."
So when you say it, you think a ghost?
Yeah, like something.
Because a feeling, or you've seen something?
There was a feeling. And then a friend of mine also commented on it, and she has, we believe she has psychic abilities, and she commented on it as well. But there were two instances. So the bathroom was where the top of the stairs was. So, and that was where I would feel that there was something. So different things happened. There was one time I was washing my face, and I looked up and I saw someone wearing white walk across the landing in the mirror. I looked in the mirror and I saw this. And so I went down the landing because that was my sister. I assumed it was my sister going into that room because we were living together at the time. And so I went in and said, "Oh, well, you got changed very fast." And then she was like, "No, I didn't." Mm-hmm. And then I said, "But you weren't wearing that a minute ago." And she said, "I was." I said, "Did you just come across the landing?" "No."
That's freaky.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it? And honestly, I was like, what? And then I thought, you know what? It's just been my eyes playing tricks on me. Mm-hmm. Then at a later stage, I was sleeping and I woke up because I felt someone sit down on the end of the bed. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, and everybody has said to me, I'd have been out of the house at this point. But the thing is, it never felt malevolent, threatening, nasty. It just felt like it was somebody there. And it kind of didn't bother me. So then I started talking to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, just to say, like, you're
and
welcome.
You've moved house since. So
yes, I've moved
didn't
house.
Follow you. You've left it there.
No, I don't feel anything in the house that I'm in. Even though it's an old house, and I keep waiting to see, am I going to feel something in this old house? And
years ago, when I was only 8 or 9 year old, my dad's mum, so she was my nanny. My mum's mum was my granny, but my dad's mum, she lived in a townhouse, so 3 stories. And I had never met my great-grandmother. I'd met my great-grandfather when I was I remembered him right up until I was about 8-year-old. And my grandmother, my dad's mum, my nanny, she had stuff from my great-grandparents' house all up in her top floor, which we would have called the attic, but it was the top floor of her house. And there was 2 bedrooms up there, and she kept their suitcases full of like china plates and cups and saucers. And we would have went up there. There was a little card table, and we would have put the wee card table out and been playing tea parties and stuff with. And these were my great grandparents' things. Mm-hmm. And one time I was there on my own. I was up in the attic on my own, and my grandmother came up. She must have been calling me, and I hadn't heard her. And she came up to the top of the stairs, and I was sitting. I had the teacup and saucers set out, and I was talking away, and she just went back down the stairs again, And then about half an hour later, she called me for my tea, and I went down, and she's, what were you doing up there? And I said, oh, I was having a tea party. Who were you having a tea party with? And I described who I was having a tea party with and what the conversation was all about. And it was only when I was in my 30s, late 30s actually. Probably mid 30s. I was in my grandmother's house, and we were chatting about her old house and people that obviously used to be in our lives. And she recalled this story to me. And she said, you know, I didn't at the time say anything to you, but you described my mum. And I'd never met her, even what she was wearing and things she would have said. So the conversation that I apparently relayed to her when I was young was the terminology and things that my great grandmother would have said. And I had never met her. Apparently, when I was 2 weeks old, she passed away. Shortly after they brought me to the house, and she got a nurse, and shortly after that she passed away. Now, not the same day or anything, but shortly after. My mum's hopefully listening, and she'll be able to verify this. So I had never met, I'd never seen a photograph of her either, because I mean, obviously years and years and years ago, there weren't many cameras and things about, so I'd never actually seen her, but I described her hair, her clothes, and even the conversation that I relayed to my nanny was the terminology that my great grandmother would have used. So I do think there is something out there, but who knows? I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things you have to decide for yourself.
Yes. But also, we're all in soul groups. So the fact that your great grandmother came back or stayed around is probably because she was there to give support, and you can call on your ancestors at any point. If you're ever stuck or struggling, or you need a bit of extra support, you can actually just close your eyes and say, I'm calling in, you know, my ancestors, and please give me the strength to get through this. And it is amazing how they'll band around and help. And also, children don't know that they shouldn't see what they see. It's only when they get older that so you'll have young children who are talking about, you know, past lives or ghosts or speaking to somebody. There's loads of, you know, kids in graveyards who are chatting away to people or playing games and things like that, and it's not always something to be afraid of.
No, and in different cultures that's really encouraged and embraced, like in cultures where they
somebody at the door. Speaking
of
ghosts, I'm
knock once again.
I'm going to play this one for Amber. This is Better Me For You by Max McNown. Now, Amber, I'm introducing you to this artist. I saw him live in Dublin in December, and this is Max McNown, Better Me For You. We were just chatting about ghosts just before we went to that song, and as we were in the studio, there was a knock at the door, and we all jumped out of our seats.
Perfectly timed.
My heart did stop, let me tell you. It was just, we were all sitting looking at each other, but it was okay. It was just one of the other presenters dropping something into the studio. So Marcus, while Kat's off making her wee herbal tea there, tell us a wee funny story, because I'm sure you have loads of them. Loads of them. And just before we do go to that, can we say hello to my mum? Because my mum,
of course,
my mum was
best hair in the business.
My mum was so excited about you.
I love your mum. She's great.
Yeah, she was so excited about you coming on the show today. So she sends her love, and she said thank you very much. She says she wishes she had the advice that you've given today when she was going through the menopause, because
100%.
It wasn't talked about then, you know, wasn't really talked about. There's no. Back with her cup of tea. Thank you very much.
And the thing is, like, sharing is caring. If somebody has knowledge of something, don't keep it a secret. I'm never a gatekeeper on anything I do, because the way I look at it is, what's the point of me sitting on it if it's going to help somebody else? You know,
that's it. That's it.
I'm not going to suffer from menopause, but I can see the effect of what it has on other people. And the lovely thing about this program is, like, the women who are going through it all have said, partners, mums have all said, "Oh, you're just like your old self again," because you're just tapping back in to those wee neurons and those wee connections that were closed, and then you're just reactivating the doors again. So yeah, of course, there's literally no shame in anything that happens monthly, because the reason why stuff like that is there is so that you can bring life into the world. And then whenever nature unfortunately decides, you know, that's it. It turns it off, and it shocks. It's a shock to the system at both ends. So that's things that we just need to be, again, really cognitive of. And I think men in today's world are starting to become a lot more sensitive around it. And interestingly, in Spain, they are now putting into good working practices that there are a certain number of days a month that women are able to take off if they need that little bit of time, because there's no point having somebody who is sitting crippled in pain and non-productive when they could be at home, but when they're in, they're as productive, or they could potentially work from home. So Spain is starting to make it that there's days a month that people can take off that won't affect their holidays or sick pay or anything like that.
I think there are a few companies actually here that are doing that now too. I think after COVID and after the pandemic, a lot of companies are bringing back the remote workers back into the workplaces and into offices. But a lot of them, what they've done is to compromise. They've then sort of sectioned off a few days a month or whatever that they and that's companies here starting to do that too. So I think it's quite a good thing, because it will.
I think it is. Yeah,
things like that.
It is really positive. But I'm also thinking about it coming from like my own personal working experience, and there's probably not a solution to this, but I think it's really tough for people who are in careers like they're doing performing arts, particularly they're doing physical things like they're dancing, and you just can't take the time off. You just have
in
to
a show or a play.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just got to load up on paracetamol and just keep going.
It's kind of like what we do, and yourself. If you've got a booking, no matter what's going on in your life, you've got to go on, flick the switch, and carry on.
Yes.
Getting back to the working life.
Yes.
Give us some funny stories, Marcus. Come on.
It has been great. So whenever I very first started out, it was so new. So there was no benchmark whatsoever. So the three of us, it was Trudy, Tina, and myself, all started out, and because we had no reference point other than just what we wanted to do. So Tina was, Miss West Belfast. I was a North Down housewife, and so I was like a real housewife before real housewives were actually a thing. And Trudy was this quirky kind of like fashionista-y type. So I had my own long blonde hair at the time, and I presented very feminine. Like I was working in cosmetics, and there was one because you got paid in cash, and there was one time I was coming home, and I used to live in the Mount, and the taxi driver missed going into the Mount, and I said, "Oh, sure, just go the back, and I'll just cut up through the back alley in the gate," type thing. So I had my wee handbag on my shoulder and like a nice wee top and wee outfit and everything like that. So I looked like a woman late at night in this alley, right? And somebody came walking down, but my handbag was on my shoulder, and all of my wages for the 3 nights that I had worked in it, and it was rent week as well. So he tried to grab my bag. But the thing is, I kind of clocked him, and I kind of gripped it just in case. I was like, that's so dope, as if he's going to grab my bag. So he was trying to grab my bag, and then I turned around and I was like, whatever. And I got laid into him, and I had like these big rings and everything on. And he goes, here, missus, leave me alone. I'm sorry. And then he ran off. And then but I put on this big deep voice that really frightened the life out of him. And then I started hitting him with all my rings, and he was like, I'm sorry, missus, leave me alone. And I actually had a grip of him, and he was,
And even after all that, he still was calling you missus.
I know.
That's fantastic.
Well, I've taught him.
You also have a story about the riots.
Oh yes. So because I'm from Bangor, so I didn't really get the whole like areas and flashpoint areas, and we didn't know what a flashpoint area was, but we went to Tar Street. So the Mount.
Oh, Tar Street,
Star Street
Lower
College.
Newton Arch Road. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
And it was part of Biffy. So we had campuses there, and then one on the Woodstock Road. So the Mount, we were like, this is perfect because it's right in the middle of everything, and we can go there, until we realised why it was so cheap, because in the summertime they had all of the riots and stuff like that.
But this is when you were living in the Mount, and there wasn't there a few drag queens living there.
So the Mount back then it was called Fairyland because there were so many
all
gay
drag,
people living
yes,
in it.
I remember that.
And the apartments were called Fairy Towers.
Sounds great.
Oh, it was brilliant.
Sign me up, I'll
There
go
was
with
a
it, Fairy
party every
Towers.
night of the week, and there was something to do and go somewhere. So the first time that happened, we didn't know what on earth was going on because the mount is
This
a
is
square.
facing the short strand.
Yes,
Yes.
and there's one way in and one way out. So if they're all rioting at the bottom, you can't get out. So we were kind of like under siege, and we were on the back row. So this is again early internet, and I think it was the very early days of eBay. We took photographs of the rubble and we put it on eBay, and we sold now 20. Oh gosh, when was that? Like 2000? Yeah. So 26 years ago, we made £700 selling rubble from authentic rubble
Who
from Riots.
had this idea?
Americans. Oh, I did, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, you
yeah,
had
yeah.
this idea?
I had this idea. And I said,
Like, why are you not a multimillionaire?
I know.
Like, why are you?
because I keep giving it away to people. Keep giving it to people.
I don't know why you're not like Holy moly!
I know, because then there was computers in our college, so we just took photographs and then put it on and sold 700 quid's worth of Riots.
Like we just sent like a wee bag of stones.
Yeah. Like, or half a brick and things like that, and because they paid for the postage as well, so it was.
That is so.
And then we wrote a wee note and
funny.
everything, and then printed out. So we the photographs that we
Like
had,
authentication.
I photograph of like the short strand, and because it did look when it stopped, it did look like no man's land. It was all rubble and sticks, and you thought you were living in a war zone, but then half an hour later the council came round, everything was gone. So it sometimes started as fast as it finished, and then it was cleaned up and everything like that. So it was just very different times, but you just got very used to living like that. So because I lived in the back of the square, the army tanks would sometimes line up there and sort of like camp out there, so they might be there for a couple of days, and then I would go and I would stick my wee ghetto blaster on the windowsill, because it was there were Victorian houses with the bay windows, so I would lift up the slat window, put my ghetto blaster out on the window, and I would get into
Entertain the
drag,
troops.
and I would do Dolly Parton, and the floodlights, the way they've got floodlights. So
Yes.
they would say there was 5 or 6 of them. So I'd be doing dolly and cartwheeling up and down, and they would floodlight me. So everyone I went past, they would put the floodlight on, and I'd be dancing up and down. It was honestly, now it would be like something from a TV show, but it was just like, they thought it was great crack, and it was a bit of entertainment for them, and I was just having a bit of banter. I couldn't really say very much because they couldn't really hear it, but they were, the music was playing,
You
and
kept them entertained.
yeah, it was great.
Somebody needs to write this. Lisa McGee needs to get onto this and write.
I think as well, possibly if you had done that down the short strand, there may not have been any riot.
No, I know.
Otherwise, just having a big party.
I know. Building bridges, not walls. And then sometimes when people were running from the police, what you had to do was let them in your back door and run through the front. But the thing is, nobody really ever came into the mount because they couldn't really get out, because if they ran into the mount. But somebody once ran up, no pun intended, my back alley, right? And we were all students, and 2 of them were from the country, and they were Catholic, and they were really panicking because somebody was trying to get in. I was like, what are we going to do? So I took my I had my hair in a ponytail, I took it down, and because I was very feminine and soft, and I had this big kimono, and I shoved a, what do you call it, a pillow up my jumper, and then I went to the back door and I said, listen, I'll keep the lights off. I've had a very complicated pregnancy, and I just the stress of this, and I've just moved in. And he goes, I'm sorry love, here, don't you worry about it. And I was like, it's just, do you mind just not coming in the house, and he goes, I no worries, you just keep the lights out, I locked the gate, and then I let myself out. He had the cheek to come back 2 or 3 days later because he left his tobacco, and he was like, here, I was out your back and I left my tobacco, and I had answered the door, but he didn't clock
It was
that
the
it
same
was me.
person.
And then another great one was so there's like halfway houses there, or some like sheltered housing, and I would get ready in my house, and then I would just drive to work, and and then home again. And one time I was coming out, and there was a man that used to open the window and just shout out the window into the street. And then this one time I was getting into the car and he goes, here, love. Man, and he was trying to get me to go up there and everything. And I said, oh, I'm okay, thanks. And then, so then he was going, I'm going to tell your fella we're in a relationship. I'm going to tell him we're dating. I'm going to tell him. And I was going, my fella? Who does he think my fella is? Then one time I was getting out dressed as myself. Out the window goes, here, just so you know, me and your girl are going at hammer and tongs. And I was like, he thinks I'm two people living in this house. He doesn't realise that he thinks that, like, my partner is Portia.
Yeah. I actually think, see, that's so funny, but I actually think my neighbours, because my neighbours are quite elderly, and obviously when I'm going to work, I look like very different. You know, some days I come out with brown hair because I wear wigs. Some days come out with brown hair. Some days come out with red hair. Some days I'm coming out with pink hair.
Yeah.
And I actually think they think there's more than one.
I know.
Like one of me live in that house.
And then when I did Come Down With Me years ago, right, and I
wanted to ask you about
all
Come
my
Down With
nanny's
Me.
church was watching it and everything. So Nanny went into, because it was the Monday to Friday one, and Nanny went into church on Sunday, and this lady came over. She goes, "Oh, your Marcus was great. He was brilliant. The only thing is, he did all that work, and he spent the whole day cooking. And the next thing is, some big girl turns up, and she took all the credit for everything." And said that she had
Some
made
big
it.
girl.
And
It was because all the shows, that week, he had gone to everyone's houses as Marcus, and then on the night that he was hosting,
Yeah.
he was hosting it as Portia.
Very nice. Nice.
so so she had thought, because I'd done all the prep work as Marcus in my own house, and then I slipped up to do like a wee costume change, and then came down that somebody else came and took the credit.
Right.
She hadn't done
Because the contestants on that show don't know what you do for a living until it's
No.
your night.
No.
Isn't that right? You don't share any
Well,
information.
it depends. Sometimes it's just because general conversation happens, but it's because it's TV. It is all very, very, very staged, and the camera that they have for, you know, in the taxis, there's only one taxi with a camera in it. So, and it's about 45 minutes. So if there's four of you doing that drive around, you know, you could be sitting nearly 2 hours after everything is finished and just sort of sitting there waiting to go home. But they do have a driver and his job is to make sure that you get through your front door safe, because you're drinking from you arrive to you go home. So it could be, somebody could be handing you a glass of wine at 5 o'clock and still handing you wine at 1 o'clock.
That's what I was going to say to you. So the meal itself, because of the way they film, I'm sure it doesn't run consecutively
No.
so it probably takes hours and hours to get through a 3-course meal.
Yeah, which is why when you hear people say, oh, well, I had to, you know, there's an hour in between courses, well, that's kind of standard. So they're obviously just saying stuff like that because they want to mark the person down, because maybe they think the person's going to do better than they're going to do. So you see all those wee tricks.
We actually talked about this last week and how programs like this, because I've done a couple of reality type programs, you know, with judges and things, where they pre-recorded reactions.
Yeah.
And things that, I mean, I have a real horror story about my time in Edinburgh, and which I'll not go into today, but I mean, it was horrific and actually put me off almost for life.
Yeah.
For doing other things because of how we were treated by a certain show. I'm going to go to another song here. If you want to WhatsApp us, give us your stories, your messages on 077 561 61456. That's 077 561 61456. If you're brave enough, send us a voice message because we can play it on air. I'm joined in the studio by Marcus Hunter Neill and Kat Reagan. We're going to come after this song to Kat and about her therapies and the training that she's had for that. This is I Don't Feel Like Dancing. The Scissor Sisters.
Let's do brunch with Alex J on Pulse Online Radioor today. Friends worldwide, one airwave. Let's do brunch with Alex J.
Hello, good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock.